Yeah, go ahead. Let's wing it, you know?
Yeah, the idea is quite simple. Uh, Me and Jordan. Oh no. Yeah, me and
Fucked it
Michael.
up just right in the beginning, okay?
We'll leave that in.
uh,
Yeah, the idea was quite simple for this stream. Me and Michael are both longtime fans of Jordan Owen, of the Jordan Owen 42 fame. And we just wanted to do sort of a podcast tribute to him, discussing the history of his YouTube channel, his artistic endeavors and filmmaking endeavors and whatnot. Everything has been up to basically since his YouTube presence, or at least since we've got to know him a few years ago. What that has meant for us, why we enjoy his content, and what we feel about his evolution, his history. No strict plans as to the shape of our discussion. We'll just have a open-ended chat and see where that will lead us.
yeah, okay, that was very precise of you, my friend, and I think I think our listeners will enjoy the interplay between your like stern bass voice and my like high pitched court jester voice. So yeah. So yeah. So let's get right into it. I'll do like my part of like a mini intro. So I think you and I actually sort of met through the Jordan Owen channel. I think you found me from an interview I did with Jordan, if I
Yes.
remember. I think that yeah. So yeah, I think in a way we owe Jordan our friendship as well, and I think that's quite touching, and yes, so it's so we owe our friendship to Jordan Owen and the ever watchful eye of our dark mother Ayn Rand. So yeah, I think this will be a nice discussion between us. We've discussed Jordan and Jordan's work a lot in like in private discussions, and I think it will be nice to put our thoughts out there in a more public way, let's say. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I thought we may start with setting the stage with
Sure.
when did we start watching him? Because
Yeah.
I think technically one would be tempted to set the stage of what he's into, but in fact he's been famous for so many topics throughout the years that it would be hard to pin him
True.
down, I think. There's been political commentary, there's been some atheist content in his earliest years. I think
Sure.
earlier even than we've gotten to know him.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
been a lot of pro-porn activism battling left and right-wing authoritarians alike.
Yeah.
So there's been really quite a lot
Yeah.
to his
True.
YouTube presence and other endeavors outside of his YouTube activities.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think when it comes to both of us, it was no. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where did you start or at what stage did you start watching him.
Uh,
For me, I think
I,
his
I
first
think
video was the 2012 commentary of what was her name? Dawn Hawkins, I think, or something like that. I remember the
uh,
exact reason why I found this video. I can even tell you. It was back in his pro-porn activism days, and the
yeah.
reason I got into that was because, as Jordan was later keen to remark, basically the Amazing Atheist stole the video from him, and
Oh right, yeah, that's true. That's true.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I just saw that in back in 2012, back in
I
my
think
years.
I think I know what that was. I might be mistaken, but I think that was about the guy watching like softcore porn on a plane and like some like uh, dumb conservative feminist complaining or something, if I remember correctly.
To be honest, I don't remember if it was softcore, but yeah, the nutshell was that there was some
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, no, I remember there was it was like, if I remember correctly, I think it was like barely porn. It was like scantily clad anime girls or something, you know. So, which, you know, I mean, it was Japanese, so who knows where it might have ended up, but yeah.
Yeah, the thing I remember very well that struck me with this video was that, up to this point, I've been watching The Amazing Atheist. And what is funny, I remember you also remarking one time that you started watching YouTube, or was a fan at least of The Amazing Atheist, and then when you discovered Jordan Owen, that YouTube acquaintance stopped. I
uh,
think it was quite a similar way for me, to be honest, because
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
struck me was a completely different level of intellectual analysis and of
Absolutely, yeah.
seriousness and of gravitas and just, well, of everything. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you know, but like back then we were both young guys, especially you, but certainly me too. And I think with the amazing atheist. Okay, look, in my case, unlike you, I've never been an atheist, but I did enjoy back then content that was like shitting on uh, the ridiculousness of like American evangelicals, which during that time was a valid concern, I think. But you know what I liked about T.J. Kirk, the amazing atheist, I don't think was like the political side of atheist activism. I think it was like mainly his character of, you know, like basically a, a like a fat hillbilly who actually has a very unique soul, trying to you know turn that into a YouTube show. And I think I found that not just endearing, but quite heartwarming for misfits like us. You know, he turned his, you know, his strange social position into something of value, and I think that's what I liked about him. But when I found Jordan's channel, I found a similar person doing something like that, but on a much higher level of intellectual rigor, and actually content-wise as well. And then I also discovered Jordan's more artistic side, and I was very much hooked. So yeah, so that's my story of acquaintance. But on a very typical level, I think I found um, Jordan during the early days of like anti-feminist, anti-Sarkeesian, you know, YouTube content. Um, but yeah, me too. I also was very a big fan of his anti-Gail Dines videos. I think that they were very entertaining, both because, you know, Jordan's irony is always very enjoyable, and because Gail Dines is you know, and I say this in the best way possible, an entertainingly ridiculous figure. And but also, you know, in the whole thing, Jordan was going quite deeply into libertarian philosophy and economics and ethics and all of that, and I found that fascinating. So yeah, that's my story of acquaintance with Jordan.
yeah, when it comes to his Gale Dines videos, I think it's a pity they're mostly down because
Yeah,
I
true.
just remember them being beyond brilliant, many of
Absolutely,
them at least.
absolutely,
The thing
absolutely.
is, like you say, you know, first of all, these weren't really the days of long-winded YouTube.
True,
That
true.
was
Yeah,
the time when 20-minute videos were considered long on the site, at least in the
yeah,
social
yeah,
commentary sphere.
yeah,
And what he presented with his channel was actual 3 to 4 hour videos sometimes even.
absolutely, absolutely,
And that
absolutely.
was quite unheard of at the time,
Yeah,
unusual.
yeah, yeah. Like, you know, people now take for granted things like the Joe Rogan podcast, you know, and I think no, a lot of people have noticed that Jordan used to do that before it was cool, you know, and I think he deserves a lot of recognition for that. He he created long form in a time where it was not commonplace. And I remember a lot of people like complaining, like, "Oh, break the videos into smaller parts," and he was basically flipping off his own audience. But I kind of found that endearing. And yeah, but he made those long ass diatribes on videos, and I remember just enjoying putting them on throughout the whole day and going about my day doing the stuff I needed to do, like around the house and art stuff and everything. So yeah, I think that was something unique on his part that he deserves much more recognition for.
Yeah, that is true. And what's really endearing is also it wasn't some nonsense or stupid sketches filling up this time. It was just him talking, and him talking on point. And one time he remarked that one of the reasons he does those long ass videos is because he doesn't want any point to go unaddressed. And boy, did he deliver on that. It was like he actually went on essayistic tangents on smallest things, in fact, is what he did.
Yeah.
He took every argument, and what is, I think, the most striking, I think something we should openly acknowledge is that we both know Jordan, as in we've both interacted with him in Facebook
on a more
conversations.
personal level.
On a more personal level in Facebook conversations and outside of just viewing his content.
True.
And but the thing is, I've seen him asking, like, sharing some sort of a Facebook chain, asking to tell his Facebook friends what do they like him, and that for that to be something original. And what I think nobody really acknowledged about Jordan is his immense integration of knowledge. I think that's the greatest thing about him, to be honest. Because you mentioned philosophical, ethical, and economic insights, commentaries, but that's just only the part of it. Because what he would do, he would freely mix like more theoretical points with his personal experience, and that's something that would go completely unforced, because usually people, when somebody wants to use, for example, he's a musician by trade, and usually when people go into their personal or professional life to find some arguments in a discussion, that's something that ends up feeling very gimmicky. But in his example, I can't really think of any good points right now, but it was literally like he would go, a feminist says something or anybody says something, and he says that that reminds him of a certain plot from a Simpsons episode, or that reminds him of a poem, or that reminds him of a song, or of a time he was in a class and something happened, and he could draw and can do this up to this day, and I think it's one of the strongest points of his. And I can't really think of, to be blunt, anybody who can do that like him. Integrate his knowledge in an expert fashion. And it's extremely hard to do intellectually because people oftentimes are drawn to fleeting abstractions and to just, it's true of SJWs, in a very meme fashion, but I think it's true of many people, that they just go droning off their dogma, which is obviously unconnected to truly think and feel. But in his example, it's very apparent that he thinks and feels with the entirety of his life and his experience, and that's something that's uncommon would be giving it too little praise, I think, to call it.
True. And I think something that was on my mind is that in that aspect of the integration that you mentioned and drawing from his experience and finding a very suitable story from very different sources on every point, it reminds me of like a Jordan Peterson lecture on steroids, not necessarily in depth knowledge, because let's face it, like Peterson is much older, but in terms of the integration and finding a suitable story for every little point, he might even surpass Peterson in that aspect. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that because with Peterson, it feels. I think with Owen, it feels more natural to compare these two Jordans, and
Yeah,
in
yeah,
fact,
true,
that's.
true.
I don't know if I ever told you that, but I once asked Jordan about that. I
Yeah.
remarked that that's something I admire about him very much, and he told me that uh, he thinks he got that from Joseph Campbell, in fact, and
True,
that The
true.
Power of Myth was something that inspired him, the DVD
Yeah,
series.
yeah, 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 yeah. And as you know, the power of myth is my favorite subject, and as epistemologically Randian as you have been throughout our friendship, I think you've warmed up much more to that aspect as well. So, yeah, yeah,
It's an ongoing meme between us that there is no contradiction between myth and objectivity and
yeah,
objectivism.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
look, like okay, I knew about Ayn Rand before before Jordan Owen, but I got into Ayn Rand's thought through Jordan, and I've never been an atheist. I've never been epistemologically an objectivist, although ethically it immediately clicked with me. But so much of my thinking when I was younger was to try to integrate Ayn Rand's ethics into my epistemological worldview, and I even did a presentation of like this ontological system of mine during a postgraduate class to my now PhD supervisor. Although I never put the Randian ethics part into it because it's a humanities university and you get crucified. But
yeah.
yeah, but still, that was something very important to me, and I think so. Some people might not like that, maybe you too, but I think uh, Ayn Rand kind of tackled herself by by insisting on her epistemology, because her epistemology, it's the objectivist part, I think, and as strange as this might sound, its roots, I think, are in Marxist materialism, in terms of an outside, very objective reality, the rejection of the Hegelian idea of spirit, and all of this. And I can understand what bothered Rand about about this whole concept, but I think uh, as anti-communist as she was, she still grew up and went to school in the USSR, and the that kind of worldview sticks with you. So.
Well, what I would reply with is that it's basically Aristotelian metaphysics and that I see no Marxist elements to it.
Yeah, but look, Aristotelian metaphysics are much more complicated than Randian objectivism. I mean, like, you have concepts like, um, uh, existence is impossible without movement, and essentially form being like a metaphysical concept that that basically gives matter its like meta existence sort of thing. So it's, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm not really disagreeing, but I think that even Aristotle, with his anti-Platonic metaphysics, still has a lot of poetry in his metaphysics, like the idea that the prime mover essentially moves all things by placing an almost erotic gravitational pull on them. So I like, even Aristotle left a back door open for the more poetic aspect of metaphysics, if that makes sense.
I would be happy to combat you on this issue, but I think it would be
Sure.
healthier to get back on the
Okay, let's go
subject
back to
matter
Jordan
of our
Owen.
discussion.
Yeah. Come on, come on. You know, as much as you try to stick to those roots, and I admire you for that. Well, you know, we all know that you're slowly sliding into phenomenology and Christian mysticism. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Like our conversations, when they're not about private things, are
true.
mostly two things: me defending Ayn Rand,
Yeah,
and me defending archetypal interpretations of Christian mysticism. That's true,
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's a thing I'm very much into lately.
True,
Um,
true,
yeah,
true.
but that's a subject for a completely different discussion, I'm afraid.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
Although not really, because Jordan Owen is also very much into those two things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's very interesting. You know, his not transformation, but his like let's say evolution into a renewed interest in religion and metaphysics and Christianity, which I see as happening through Jordan Peterson in his case. You know, I might be wrong, but from what I've gathered and him talking about Peterson and stuff like that. Um, but I think that there's an interesting element here because I think it's interesting that you know there is a thread that connects Ayn Rand with sort of Christianity and especially the Petersonian you know approach to Christianity, which is essentially the sanctity of the individual. And I think there's a part of Ayn Rand that is very poetic in that sense, which is the metaphysics of value. And I think when you put together Ayn Rand's individualism and her metaphysics of value, you actually get pretty close to the sort of Petersonian Christianity, at least you know in its first aspects.
Huh.
Hmm.
When it comes to the insistence of the gravity of ethics, that's
Yeah.
certainly something that Peterson and Ayn Rand have in common.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's also this sense of seriousness of existence
Yeah.
that's shared between the two of them.
And also the importance of the hero archetype.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, yeah, and the general romanticism as well, because something that Jordan Owen always focused on in terms of Ayn Rand was her romanticism, actually, which is very interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, getting back into Jordan Owen timeline,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, we both got into him in the early 2000 teens.
Yeah, yeah.
And, well, it was a very, very interesting period.
True.
Obviously, it has its elements. I'm not even sure if you can say that it has its elements that he doesn't like discussing, or that it's in its entirety something that he doesn't like discussing.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, he's not here, so we can say that. Maybe Soirée.
yeah. Okay, yeah. That's actually a very crucial point. And I completely get why Jordan doesn't want to talk about the whole issue, and especially Davis as a person himself. But you know, as catastrophic as that meeting might have been for both of them, I would actually argue. Um, I think there is a strange form of dark value to the whole thing. And look, for example, I actually really enjoyed Davis's content. Not saying I completely agreed all the time, but you know, he had a lot of interesting things to say that you could think about. Uh, that being said, Uh, I actually was much more on Jordan's side during the whole debacle, and I could certainly see his points much more, especially from a point of the emotional side of things and everything. But I think you know, and we've discussed this a lot, that the meeting of those two individuals in that era of time, during that project, during the beginning of the culture war as we now know it, it's very interesting because it really brought out in both of them the Jungian shadow, and I think it brought it out on them to point the point of devouring. And I can actually sympathize with that because during that time, my interest in politics actually brought out my shadow in a very bad way. And it's one of the reasons that you can never really lose interest in politics. But I've definitely never discussed politics on my channel again. I in fact deleted all my political videos, and it's because I didn't want to have, on a personal level, it's not like I had anything to hide, but on a personal level, I do not want to have a lot of reminders of the era when I was devoured by my shadow. And I saw this devouring with those two very, very much. And it, on the one hand, it's like fascinating from a point of like psychological research. On the other hand, I really I carry a lot of sorrow for what happened, especially for Jordan, and I can very much sympathize with him. So yeah.
To be honest, what's perhaps interesting is it was you who, as you say, saw some value in some of Davis's commentaries. I remember there was even a time when you pondered on the idea of inviting him to your channel.
Yeah. But to be clear, I did not want to invite him on my channel to discuss politics. Not at all. It was the time when he had become a Catholic, and I thought it was interesting to have him comment on some of my like philosophical ideas on the concept of black magic. So to make that clear, it was way beyond me being interested in the political side of that thing. So yeah.
Yeah. I remember you remarking that you're a person who can split the personal and the professional and the intellectual aspects of life very well. I really couldn't do that because I really despised him from the moment that it became pretty apparent that he bullied Jordan mercilessly.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he won't really like to go into litigation, potentially litigious, if that's an adjective area.
Yeah.
Easier to say, least to say that he didn't really behave in a most ethical manner.
Absolutely.
Let's leave it at that. But to be honest, I was very confused about what happened with Jordan associating with him from the very beginning, because he always struck me as a walking joke, basically. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Like there was this definite aura of him behaving so pompously, that there was an aspect of sort of post-irony to it, and he could always say that it's all post-irony, but no, I think it was pretty apparent that he indeed fashioned himself as a sort of a great intellectual and sort of a messiah even figure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, look, there has always been a very big and inescapable dose of deep ontological cringe about Davis. Like, absolutely, and there's no way to go beyond that. And it's like, I think like even ContraPoints in one of her latest videos about cringe actually, got into the case of Davis Orimi as a cringe lord. And it's inescapable. The reason I did not mind that was not because I found his cringy side cool by any measure, but it's because I always had not a fondness for cringe, but a big tolerance for it, because okay, this is maybe my most Christian. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's I think that's my most Christian side. I like going into the human gutter and see what kind of interesting, precious stones might be found in there. And the other thing is, I have created a lot of cringe content myself, and I'm still okay with it to this day. Because in the end, as much cringe as I've created, there have been people who ended up really finding value in my content, and so I was okay with accepting my cringiness, and I thought it only fair to accept the cringiness of others as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, although
Yeah.
There's a problem that many people put Jordan and Davies in the same camp because
Yeah,
both created some cringy content.
No,
Like
no,
Jordan, for
absolutely.
example, I think the most famous example of that was him making some films from his bathtub. But yeah, I think there was some kind of nonchalance on his part. Whereas with Davis, I mean, maybe some people who listen to us don't remember this guy or don't know about him, but he literally had this backdrop of a night city skyline behind him, and he was sitting there with an evil goatee, fashioning a cigar and a glass of scotch, and then ringing with ice cubes in the said glass menacingly while he went on his tangents about degeneracy. I mean, it was like there are no words for even what that was. I don't know to this day, to be honest.
Like absolutely, man. Look, like he was like a cartoon villain. It's inescapable. It's fucking inescapable. And look, in Jordan's case, like look, you mentioned the bathtub. Who cares? About the bathtub. I mean, we've all been like 20 years old and expressing our horniness in very strange ways. Who cares? It's nothing bad about that. With Davis, the problem was he took himself pathologically seriously.
Yes.
So that was that's the inescapability of his cringe. It's I'm like I can tolerate it, but I can completely understand that his cringe is, let's say, unforgivable, if that makes sense. So
yeah. The thing is, though, with all the drama, the fruit of that is something that Jordan doesn't like to think about or speak about, the Sarkeesian effect, which I still didn't rewatch that since 2014, but from what I remember, it was pretty decent, actually. The commentary on Sarkeesian was completely competent. The interviews were interesting, even though, let's say that, honestly, amateurishly filmed. It was all quite interesting, and I think it was a fair summary of the case.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Although it obviously was overshadowed by the entire drama of it.
Of course. And look, I remember like when I was a backer of the Sarkeesian Effect. I was on the Patreon thing, so I got to see the movie for free the moment it came out, and I remember that. That day I was having like a really bad day, and having the movie coming out and watching it actually made my day. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't the amazing thing it could have been and had the potential to be, but it was still pretty good. There was like nothing bad about it. But of course, when you have such big drama around the production of a work, of course it's going to be overshadowed. And I think, look, it's completely understandable how so much drama can overshadow a film, but I think it was a big damn, almost unfair shame that happened. That it got overshadowed, because it didn't deserve that. So. Yeah,
and the fallout from that, I think, is somewhat of a marking point in
True.
JO42 history, which was
True.
the his attempt to make the Sierra documentary and the afterfall of that.
Yeah, man, like I think that was the biggest tragedy of it all, because from what I remember from the trailers and stuff, he actually had learned a lot about filmmaking, and he had the potential to actually do a really good documentary on that. And of course, he got tackled by the forces that be in the realm of pathetic politics. So, yeah.
That is true, and what happened from then was somewhat of a mystery to me, because it's pretty apparent that he's been dealing with the trauma to this day, and his recent videos are an evident and pretty open attempt to deal with the shadows of the past. But
yeah,
to be honest, I still really can't fathom the entirety of it, because he truly didn't do anything damnable or anything
absolutely
bad, even. I mean, he might have. I mean, the worst thing that he did was associated with somebody who he shouldn't have trusted.
Yeah.
And hands up, who didn't do that in life. And perhaps maybe he could have been more civil with his commentary on Sarkeesian, although still I don't think there was anything out of the line with it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, it was sarcastic. It was sometimes over the top, but he never went into the. There wasn't anything like overtly racist or like vile about it in the slightest.
Definitely not.
So yeah, there's no true realm for like self-criticism of the order he levies at himself, I think, in that realm as well.
Yeah.
And what else? I think actually the worst part of it was his optics, because what I remember being there were two aspects to his downfall that were, I think, the worst when it came to the communications part.
Yeah.
The first of them was that, he was a typical prey to the narcissist / psychopath, and that he was gaslighted, and up to the point that he had his emotional outburst in public, and then Davis could go on parading about him being the calm one. And which was pretty apparent once you got to actually listen to what happened and see some conversations.
Exactly.
And that was actually one of the most interesting elements to that, because Davis actually shared their Skype conversations thinking that they would Jordan in a bad light. Well, in fact, they just disclosed how of a downright evil human being Davis really was toward him. And in general.
And I remember like one thing that really stuck with me back then, because obviously I had a firm eye on all the drama for two reasons. One, I was invested in the film, like even literally with money, but I'm the first to admit about myself that I love gossip. Like I don't like gossiping about other people, but I really enjoy collecting gossip. So human drama is something that I do follow. But so I had a really firm eye on it, and something that really stuck with me was, as you said, when Davis released the Skype conversations, where I think Jordan had made a video condemning Rouge V, and Davis was like attacking him on that. He was saying, look, this guy has supported us even with money. Maybe don't attack him. But he didn't say it in a civil way like that. He was like, essentially treating Jordan like a dog who has done something wrong, and then you disproportionately punish that dog and treat it like a piece of shit. And Jordan's response was just, all right, I'll remove the video. And Davis thought that this conversation put Jordan in a bad light and him in a good light. And it was like the level of the lack of self-awareness was amazing, So, yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, that's true. And coming back to Jordan and the problems of his PR, I think the second problem was his what truly seemed like pushing for crowdfunding because
Yeah. Yeah.
or from Patreon money, because the thing is, he came to fame as a guy who seemed not to care about following. I
Yeah.
mean, he had maybe a consistent view count of, I think at a certain point it was like 8,000 a video, and I
Yeah.
don't think it ever got beyond that. But he produced, video after a video of 2 hours, 4 hours,
Yeah. Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And still there was no, he didn't make it seem like he needed money or was after money and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, he started mentioning his Patreon account and doing so very desperately. And
Yeah.
it just, I mean, I'm deeply aware that there were emotional aspects to that made him unaware of how he presented that, but it really seemed like a sharp turn that was really strange, because he seemed not to care about money at all, and then
Yeah.
he went sharply into almost condemning his audience for not.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
but
that
look,
was very strange.
it's really understandable how that started, because the Jordan and Davis took on a huge project that basically required them to essentially quit all the money sources in their lives. So it was do this project and get people to fund it, or just, starve. And so it's very reasonable, how very understandable, I should say, how this began. Now, after a certain point, I think that for both of them, what this movie brought out in them in terms of like Catholic cardinal sins was pride. And so from a certain point on, because they both got a lot of press for the Sarkeesian effect, they both felt important, and that's not unreasonable. When people discuss you all the time, even negatively, you do feel important. I've felt similar things in like similar situations. And so after that, when you've gone through all that, and suddenly you feel that your work is not being rewarded, I mean, it must be psychologically very, very rough. So I can't blame Jordan for this turn, because I can, at least emotionally, I can very much understand it.
It's not like blaming, and he's been very open
Sure.
about his mental health issues as well. And
Sure.
obviously, all that affair put much strain on his mental stability, quite
Sure.
understandably.
Of course. Yeah.
Him being, basically a victim of a hardcore abuser.
Sure. Yeah. 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 Yeah, and all that coming on top of his his chronic problems, which I can very much relate to, and I think you too, because we both battle with we've always battled with depression and stuff like that, and going through such a horrible ordeal. I mean, it's traumatic if you already are struggling. So
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. Although something that I've been, telling Jordan in comments, public and private, over and over, is that, I still feel he really judges himself too harshly for all that.
Oh,
Because
absolutely, absolutely.
there truly is a feeling like he proved himself completely worthless, even though, to be honest, any public figure does stuff that is usually much worse than what he did, because he truly did nothing that
Yeah.
wrong, or nothing
True.
evil.
Yeah.
Nothing evil. So it's really puzzling to me what complexes or what deep-seated issues that all brought up in him to.
Okay, so my kind of guess on that is that going off on the pride theme that I mentioned, is that at some point, when he managed to put his like practical everyday life back together after the whole chaos with the Sarkeesian effect. I think he came to a point, either on his own or through therapy. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate, but I think he came to a point where he saw some of the behaviors that he had during that time, and maybe felt like a sense of shame about that might have become too overwhelming, like an unnecessarily big amount of shame. Maybe I'm projecting because I've gone through similar things with this shame issue, not because of pride, but it's this this post depression or post psychological turmoil phase when you look back at how you handle things, and it's not that you don't recognize yourself, but you feel a horrible shame about not having control of yourself or doing things wrong or whatever. So okay, and that's as I said, that's speculation on my part and maybe projection, but I think I can see some elements of that in Jordan's behavior, and I really wish that he can overcome that, because it's like he's punishing himself when what he actually really needs to do is just find his footing and build a new life and understand that he didn't really do anything wrong. So
yeah, I can only agree with that. And on a personal note, there's a feeling that he shared in one of his videos that that any compliment I think feels unearned, and any achievement, and I think it was like any compliment feels like he's cheating, and every failure and every word of spite feels like a confirmation of what he already knows. And God, I know this feeling. I've been living like that for most of the last 5 years at least. And I can certainly attest to the fact that that is a fucking nightmare, living with depression and self-esteem problems like that. Not to go into some more personal stuff that he's been sharing on his Facebook, for example, but his tendency to self-sabotage, I think it's pretty apparent in some of his behaviors as well.
Sure. Yeah, look, there's a term for that, and it's called masochistic epistemology. Essentially, the thing is, if it hurts, it's true. If it doesn't, it's a lie. And it's actually interesting that you mention, various thoughts of his that he's writing on Facebook and stuff. And I won't go into that as well. But I found the term masochistic epistemology actually, strangely enough, from a ContraPoints video, and it was the ContraPoints video on incels, and I think it's probably her most honest video, and that's I think why it's also very well received. But the thing is, this sort of masochistic epistemology, it becomes a worldview that possesses you and takes you over, and then you cannot see anything under any other light. It's like I don't know if you've heard about the black pill. It's like the next stage after the red pill, and it's it's essentially an incel term, and this realization of how horrible everything is. And I think that the black pill, there's like a common saying even within the incel community that the black pill is suicide fuel, and essentially the black pill is a cognito hazard that whether it is correct or not, it doesn't matter. It takes over the way you view things, and that leads to you living in a psychogeography, and by extension in a reality where nothing really can go any other way than wrong, and I really sympathize with that. I can understand it.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. That's basically how depression works, I think.
Yeah.
It's sort of a confirmation bias based
Exactly.
on self-deprecating tendency.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, that's what makes depression so insidious. It's like it's like a mental meme that a mental parasite that completely takes over the host in some ways, and it's really difficult to rip it out of your mind.
If there is anything I've learned over the years, it's don't go off your meds, and it's
Oh
something
yeah.
I've experienced myself quite violently. I
Yeah.
think you did too.
I actually never went off my meds because I knew exactly what would happen, and that's why I always was harsh with you when you went off your meds, because like there's this thing that a lot of depression patients, a trap they fall into. They start feeling better, and then they think, okay, yeah, now I don't need the pills anymore, and there's this inner sort of shame slash pride that oh, I'm taking the pills, I have an external thing fixing me up, but now I can just use my willpower to overcome it. And what people don't understand in that position is that once you get off the meds are the only thing that they're not the only thing that are making you better, but they're the only thing that are keeping the depression mental parasite at bay. And you need to keep the parasite at bay to do all the other things that will make you better in the long term, and that might actually at some point in the future make you not need the pills anymore. But look, I'm on two antidepressants. I've for the last years now. I've never been better in my life, and without the antidepressants, I don't think I would have been able to do the big steps that I've taken to change my life for the better. And the progress I've made with these choices that I made is astronomical. But none of that would have happened if I couldn't have that chemical correction in my brain that would allow me to take the next steps. And I'm very much aware that if you go all, if you remove that chemical helper, you might actually, you cannot know for sure, but it's very possible that for any stupid reason that might give you a small depressive episode, the parasite will just take over again.
Yeah, that's certainly something that has happened in my case, because I felt great for a period. I've had my stupid reasons, and some of them sounding also very smart to go off the meds. And the first really violent thing that happened to me, and slowly but surely I went where I was. And I'm in the process of rebuilding my my chemistry, my little chemist set, basically, to the point that I will hopefully be able to function again, so that my life won't be a daily struggle to the extent that it needlessly is right now. And I think that it's true what you're saying, that indeed it allows you to do things, and it's people often are focused on the fact that, oh, it's not the antidepressants, it's me doing my hobbies or doing my work or my relationships, etc., etc. But it's the antidepressants allowing you to enjoy them.
Exactly.
So that's true. That's something. There's a mental trap that's very easy to get into.
Exactly.
It's very easy to rationalize that to yourself as willingness to be independent. That's true. So I think it is a big trap.
And there's the other thing that I think people don't get is that, like, prolonged depression actually causes a sort of like brain damage, and that damage makes you physically unable to produce the right brain chemistry. And so from that point on, you need the antidepressants to deal chronically with that chronic damage, you know. And there's something like my therapist told me once when I said that it was like a year ago or something, and I said I'm in a very good place in my life. I'm very happy with what I've done. I'm actually quite happy in my day-to-day life, but uh, I always feel a hole inside me somewhere deep. And you know, sometimes when I'm tired, it might feel bigger, and it's like I know it will always be there, but I can live with it. And my therapist told me that, like, yeah, you know, you've been through a lot of shit. You can't expect for nothing to be no scar to be left behind, you know. So
Yeah, that is true. It's all in your
yeah,
brain, basically. And
yeah,
the uh, bioneurological element to all that is something that
yeah,
can
yeah,
be really jumped over
exactly.
faster.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's why the pills are important. You know, it's like it's like, okay, you've become diabetic because of some illness you had, and then you're like, okay, I'm not gonna take my insulin anymore because you know the illness that gave me diabetes is over, so now I shouldn't need it. But that's not how you go about the problem. You know?
To be honest, I'm keeping this tangent this long
Yeah,
much, greatly because I need to hear that so that I never get off the meds again.
yeah,
But coming back to Jordan Owen, I think
yeah,
one element of that of his that we should focus on, uh,
yeah,
that we wanted to focus on, is his art in general.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. And I think this is that's what makes me sad, that when Jordan Owen comes to my mind, he always comes to my mind as an artist and as the art he has created and the beauty he has created. And I like, one of my biggest wish for Jordan is that people that everybody would think about Jordan's art first when Jordan comes to their mind, you know, because I really do believe that he has created very, very beautiful things. And this goes back, you know, to Ayn Rand's metaphysics of value. They are good things that are good by themselves and don't need anything external to justify their value. You know?
That is true. What is first that comes to your mind? Is it his literary works or his music?
Yeah, it's his writing, and I think it's so. I'm in a similar position with Jordan because I do a lot of different kinds of art as well, and I also do both literature and music. But literature is my main talent and the most, at least psychologically, the most important aspect for me. So you know, I'm obviously going to focus on his writing more, but I think that the stories he wrote in Dark Therapy, not just that, but Dark Therapy is probably the most known part of his literary works. There is something there is something so ah tangibly transcendent, let's say, hidden in this world of shadows of Dark Therapy, that has grasped my soul, and that grasp will never loosen, and I don't want it to loosen. So, and then that's not to make his music sound less important, because it certainly is not less important. But when it comes to Dark Therapy, there are a couple of stories. Like there's one story. It's not even that creepy or scary, but it's so emotionally strong. It's Seasons of the City. I don't know if you remember it.
I don't think so.
It's Yeah. Anyway, it's it's about how okay, maybe not that's not what it is about, but the central theme is how a long distant relationship that keeps giving promises but is never fulfilled, never requited, can actually have a serious impact psychologically on the person who wants to meet, who wants this to become something important. And it's beyond being so beautifully written and exploring like love and not exactly obsession, but and also sexuality and all of that. I think it's so deep, and it speaks so deeply to people like us, and this whole despair of something beautiful being seemingly at hand's reach, but always so far away, and the person who is making you happy or has the potential to make you happy being the cause in the end of that despair. And I mean, I can. It's not just that I can relate. I can like archetypally relate to that. And yeah, I mean, the way Jordan writes is is really magnificent. And I've missed his writing so much. I just wish he would do much more dark therapy or just any sort of literary writing. I've missed it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I need to listen to the entirety of Dark Therapy because I remember
Absolutely.
a few of the stories and they were mostly like clever horror,
Yeah.
but I didn't know they went into the territory of some actual drama and stuff
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
No,
remember
no,
a very clever ones that played with the pun, which was, I think, the first one, Don't Feed the Trolls.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's quite clever social commentary, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, and the other one I remember was the man with the power saw,
Oh
and
God, that was creepy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're saying about the going into drama. Like this, the story was genius by itself, obviously. But what I remember mostly from the story was the last line, which was something like, that night they did for the first time the hate that they would call their love. And I think that was just fucking genius, you know?
I remember that. That
Yeah,
was great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember also the beautiful story that I really don't want to spoil it, but there was a what's the title of it? Mother's Eyes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was that was very much like a Twilight Zone feel to it, and very classic horror. But the emotional aspect of it was was very heart grasping.
Yeah, it was very romantic.
Yeah, yeah,
That was the interesting thing about that, I think. It had this very romantic feel even though it was horror.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's this thing about that story that I can relate to at all very, very much. And I think that Jordan writes beautifully. I think he's capable of writing something so romantic because I think he has felt the pain of knowing the archetype of love and romance, but never quite being able to find its incarnation in the real world. And I've felt that very deeply, and I think, yeah, I think that's. I mean, I'm sure you've probably felt something similar, but let's face it. Compared to me and Jordan, you're like a super pretty boy, so maybe you have had better luck in that department than us. So, yeah.
To be honest, the problem is that archetypal love is always much more interesting and deeper than actual love.
Exactly, exactly. Of course, of course, of course. And that's one of the big tragedies of life, you know.
It's something that we both went into in our conversations,
Sure.
and something I can attest to as well, that, archetypal women are much more interesting, or the
Yeah,
woman is much more interesting than women as such.
yeah, 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 yeah. And that's probably true about most things. But the reason we focus on this discrepancy between the archetype and the real thing in the realm of women is because we are, young guys interested in women, and the emotional intensity around that subject is much stronger than the emotional intensity around most other subjects. So, yeah.
That may be greatly it. Can't
Yeah.
deny that aspect to it.
Yeah.
Coming back to Jordan's writing, the Vessel Chronicles were also really cool. I really hope they're finished one day.
The stories with the cats, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that, man. It was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I mean, like, I remember the moment where the kitten manifests the ability to read human language, and it's described like lightning through his brain or something, and I thought that was really genius.
Yeah, in general, the ability of Jordan to be exquisitely poetic is something that I think it's something that's stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of his prose.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the the lesson of Randian romanticism that he has gotten, and it's like a lot of people take a dump on Ayn Rand for having like big speeches and like big descriptive scenes and that, but I think there's a lot of value in this sort of explosive romanticism that I think modern literary critics are unable to understand. This explosion of an aesthetic and a feeling. So yeah.
To be honest, I completely can't fathom how anybody can say that she couldn't write. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, her prose is just beautiful.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's the people who mainly object ideologically, and that then drives them to find other flaws as well. It's like to take an extreme example. It's like people needing to say that Hitler was also a bad painter. I mean, he was definitely not a great painter, but he was like decent, I suppose, in painting. And it's this difficulty with people to being able to reconcile that somebody that I ideologically despise might have some sort of other virtue. And okay, obviously in the case of Hitler, you can like say, okay, yeah, obviously he was one of the most horrible individuals that have ever existed, and his painting is nothing special. So yeah, okay, I can see that there. But in the case of Ayn Rand, like I really can't see what is supposed to be so horrible about her ethics, even from like a communist point of view. I mean, you can just see it and say, okay, I disagree. And to then go and shit on her writing, that's just like willful blindness. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially that, it's only the Atlas Shrugged that is overtly political, like in the explicit sense of concrete vision of economy, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas the Fountainhead, it's only slight remarks here and there that you can pick up. Whereas it's about ethics and spiritual.
Yeah. It's essentially a hero narrative. That's what
exactly.
So yeah, I know. But yeah. To go back to Jordan, he has a beautiful romantic prose, and unlike Ayn Rand, he actually is capable of writing a short story, and blow it. And so, yeah, I think he really hits the nail on the head in the prose department. He's capable of finding the not exactly the perfect sweet spot, but an awesome combination between the creepy and the lyrical. No, does that make sense?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. So yeah, and you know my postgraduate studies, my PhD are in philosophy, but my first degree is in philology. So I think I have some extra, let's say, a systemic specialty to speak on the issue, and I really
Yeah,
do
flaunt
think
your
that.
diploma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I think Jordan is just yeah, his writing is just amazing. I mean, yeah, nothing. I don't think, like, even if you can find a flaw in that, it would be so unimportant compared to the beauty he has created. So
Yes, I agree with that.
yeah,
Turning to his music,
yeah,
there's tons of it, first of all.
yeah, true.
And I think mm, there are a few albums of his I enjoy. I think among my favorites, and perhaps my favorite, would be his debut with Axis of Empires,
Hmm.
Into the Shadow, because it's just a really catchy, really well performed, nicely composed piece of heavy metal, and
Yeah,
the lyrics there are also
yeah,
at times it's more classic rock stuff,
hmm,
like stuff about, for example, a badass character from a book.
yeah,
But some of it is indeed more poetic, more uplifting.
yeah,
The text of the title track is deeply Petersonian, as
true.
Jordan doesn't shy away from
Yeah,
saying. So, yeah, I really enjoyed that album. Don't know about you.
yeah. Yeah, look, I've enjoyed pretty much all of Jordan's music, and I've certainly appreciated all of it. But I think what the album that has like stuck with me is definitely The Aftermath.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people. I think nobody had anything bad to say about the music, but a lot of people criticized that album for Jordan's insistence to vocalize it himself, and I can understand that from like a, you know, like a distant point of view. Like, okay, obviously he's not the best vocalist, but I think it was actually very important that he was the main vocalist, because even if it's not perfect, it's that album is so personal that it absolutely needed his voice, you know.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
And as you probably remember, I did an interview with him
yeah,
on
yeah,
this very album, and what struck me was, yeah, it's very rich. It's full of different inspirations, and
yeah.
usually I had a problem with. I'm not a big fan of shilling guitar. I mostly find it
Hmm.
masturbatory, but there are a lot of truly beautiful solos on this album.
Yeah,
And the thing was also, I was just shocked by how personal this thing was.
absolutely, man.
Like, there was this borderline quote of the title of the Manosphere website, like, uh,
Yeah,
there was that they speak of the return of kings thing.
yeah.
So, things like that. It was pretty flamboyant and pretty
Yeah.
open in what it was speaking about, and that was something that truly impressed me, because there's some level of honesty that I just can't avoid but
Yeah,
respect.
yeah, and my favorite track from that album is The Alpha. You know, because beyond the music being just absolutely amazing, there is this the vibe that comes out of that song is very interesting, because you can see in it the the combination of two, let's say, feelings, which one of it is uh, the like the dangerous and Jungian shadow infested darkness of the, you know, the underbelly of the manosphere, but to a certain degree also Jordan's own desire and need to express his own masculinity, you know, and have it shine. And there's this there's this duality and this, to put it in a Hegelian way, this identity and difference that I think every very brainy man has probably experienced to some degree, and I think that was a genius element of that track. Whether it was consciously done or not doesn't matter, but the feeling of that track is like you've opened the deep dark depths of the heart of masculinity and have every sort of aspect of it come out,
Yeah, I mean, that's, if I remember correctly, the very message of this track, that I'm the alpha and the omega. So
exactly.
is a Hegelian synthesis,
Exactly.
In fact,
Yeah.
you're both, and you're both in that you have the elements of both the archetypally desired man and the archetypally pitied man, and yet you're beyond this simple dichotomy.
Yeah. And I also remember the last track. I think it was "Dancer in the Dark." And there was, when I heard that track, there was this message of hope about it. This essential feeling of, okay, I've reached the bottom, but I'm choosing to rebuild, and I really like that. And I think now when I think back on that song and having in mind the emotional trouble that Jordan is, that I see Jordan being in now, from like his Facebook posts and stuff, and maybe that's not the whole story, who knows, but it hurts my heart, because listening to that final track, I felt that, okay, Jordan has a hard road in front of him, but he's got it. He's putting his best foot forward, and I don't know if that coincides with maybe him stopping the antidepressants, as he has mentioned in some videos. Maybe that's changed now. I don't know, but I was so hopeful, and I'm kind of sad seeing him struggling so much now.
Yeah, that's apparent. Although what I see also in his YouTube is, the amount of honesty is growing. Like, I was in fact shocked by his newest video. Don't know if you've watched it.
What was it?
It was on Rouge V and his supposed transformation.
Oh, I think I saw the video being uploaded, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I should. So yeah, tell me about it a little bit.
Yeah, the thing that happens, I wrote about that in my comment. Basically, he speaks about how why he thinks that Rouge V's transformation is insubstantial and in fact a phony act. Oh, what a nice rhyme. But I was just wondering, I was just thinking, man, he really got under your skin, this Rouge V character.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking, to what extent would I want to comment on that? That there's definitely something very personal, something related to his complexes. And then he went straight into that. And he told about it publicly, that, because of the manosphere and what he absorbed unwillingly and unwittingly from sources like that, he has his problems with, they do magnify and make worse his problems in relationships, and his feelings of self-doubt and self-hatred. So it was like, wow, I wouldn't expect him to go into that territory, to be honest. Perhaps there's an aspect of him feeling he has nothing to lose, or perhaps it is also a willing and conscious attempt to regain some of his standing. I don't want to use the word PR, but whatever that is, whatever motivates him, I mean, to me, it's just great courage what he represents in videos like that, or when he speaks
Hmm.
um, about Robin DiAngelo
Hmm.
and how he actually got panic attacks from reading that book and why was that. I think he didn't really go into why at length, although he promised to do that. That would be very interesting to hear, although I presume also very hard to hear for him to speak about.
Mm.
But there's just things like that he went into in newer videos of his that he wasn't really that open and that introspective ever, and it isn't really something that you see from people ever,
Yeah,
especially in the public.
true, true. Yeah, that's very true. I think to a great extent, like a running theme for the last like year and a half or maybe more as Jordan is him like actively facing his demons, like even on camera on YouTube, and I think that's very good, regardless of anything else he might be going through. You know.
Yeah, although it all comes down to the fact that I still feel he pays too much attention to those.
True.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, that's not the right expression. Definitely. I mean, it's his emotions. It's not that he pays too much attention
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that
Obviously. Yeah.
he
Yeah. Yeah.
overvalues the undervalues himself and overvalues what those events meant, I think.
Yeah. 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 Look, and it's like the thing I would always want to say to Jordan, but it's like I wouldn't, I'm very agreeable. I don't like disturbing people, so I don't think I would like to say like, oh, I think this is what you're doing wrong and you should do something else. But I think that one of the things he should work on is really just letting go. And I'm saying that, but obviously that's a very hard thing to do for anyone. And just as he needs to let go of the things that happened and the trauma that he got through all of that, which is very substantial trauma, and I completely understand that. I'm not minimizing it at all. But just as he needs to let go of that, I think he also needs to let go of politics to a great extent, or maybe the big importance he places on politics, if that makes sense.
Hmm. I mean, his political commentary is very important, and I mean, it
Yeah,
is.
sure, yeah, sure, sure,
Although it is
yeah,
true that in the beginning he said that he wasn't really interested in that, and he got into
yeah,
political commentary just because he was interested in porn industry, and he
yeah,
stumbled up Neil Diaz because she was writing on that, and she just saw nobody refuting her stupidity and lies.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, I think I think by now it's kind of obvious for him that he does politics, and it wasn't always like that.
true, true. But I think I'm mainly referring to um, the emotional gravity he still places on politics. You know, um, and I think that's beyond Jordan. That's obviously something very endemic to these last few years, also. But I think it would be very good for Jordan for many reasons to like dedicate most of his channel to going back to doing art. Write some new dark therapy, upload some music and stuff like that, and cut down a little bit on the social commentary. Not saying that his social commentary is bad, not by a long shot, but I think that by doing more politics than art, he is making it more difficult on himself to let go of all the difficult things that happened.
That may be true because these things of the past are highly related to politics and him being
Yeah,
shunned due to them. So
absolutely, absolutely.
maybe it's that he doesn't really want to give up on that,
Yeah.
For some leftover pride, maybe. But
Yeah.
you know, more power to him if that's that. But
Sure. Yeah. Obviously. Obviously, but like speaking from my own experience, and I know that this is my experience, and I don't want to project what I've like my inner journey onto Jordan, but like one big thing that did a big difference in my depression was um, cut down on the politics a lot, and especially on my channel, because your YouTube channel is not just um, a place where you put content on. It's also like who you choose to present yourself as, and who you choose to present yourself as has creates a feedback loop with who you are. So I chose that what I wanted to be was someone who does like philosophy, and especially ontology and stuff like that, and art. And I think that that created a positive feedback to uh, who I actually am. You know.
yeah, I truly think I really can't judge for anybody
Sure.
or
Yeah.
everybody, but yeah, definitely politics can have a very caustic
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
influence on one's psyche. That's true, especially in modern climate, as you said.
Yeah. 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 Because uh, politics is not anymore just a battleground of figuring out what's the best way to deal with things. It has absorbed a lot of other functions that are important to the human existence. It has absorbed identity, religion, ritual, moral compass, uh, all of these things, and it has become this too powerful teratogenic entity that defines things way more than it should. So yeah.
Speaking of religion and ritual, that's something I
Yeah.
would love to hear Jordan speak more about.
True.
Although he's very hesitant, that's not even the right word. He's not hesitant, he just flat out refuses to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe on some level he wants to keep his spiritual journey untainted from putting it out there and having people commenting on it, and that creating a negative feedback loop with himself and the way he views things.
That may be partially true.
Yeah.
I think, his stated reason is him not willing to proselytize.
True. Yeah.
But, that's something you're kind of supposed to do, especially as a Christian.
No, look, it depends on how you see it, but like for me, obviously I talk a lot about religion and ritual and occultism and everything, but obviously I express my opinion that I hold to be probably correct or whatever. My belief is that maybe I'm onto something, but the thing is that I'm I never try to convince people that that's correct. It's more like I go out there and I speak my thoughts aloud. And I think that when you view talking about religion under that prism, uh, and escape the idea that, oh, anytime I'm going to talk about my beliefs, I'm proselytizing, then you just open up the floor to dialogue, and that just creates a much more positive atmosphere. And so I think it's important to escape the mindset that any talk of any public discussion of religion is trying to proselytize other people into having a private life that is according to your standards. Yeah.
Hmm. I I'm wondering about what you said, like changing your perspective that you're just speaking your mind and not trying to convince anybody, right?
Yeah.
Huh. I think that may change the way you think about what you're saying. Although I think to an extent, I assume that when you speak about certain issues in public, it is to convince people.
Yeah, but you know, look, you're always trying to convince people. You know, it's the human condition. But you can change that around and say that, okay, I'm going into the marketplace of ideas, and I'm going to present my ideas in order to be challenged, to learn something new. You know, to just by stating your ideas, to say, this is what I'm thinking. You know, tell me what you think on my thoughts. You know, and this mindset, I think, makes everything much more positive.
What is the opposite of this mindset?
The opposite of the mindset is proselytize. It is saying, I know what is right, and I'm gonna try to convince you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair dichotomy you formed there.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think so too. Yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah,
some
I'd like to see Jordan being more, let's say, and this is not the best word, but it's the first one popping into my mind, more daring about uh, airing out his thoughts on these matters, because I think good things can come of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really
Yeah,
wondering what he has to say about a lot of
sure,
issues,
true.
especially that his Christianity or his spirituality in general is definitely idiosyncratic. It's definitely
True,
interesting. It's definitely something to at least inspire thought, I think.
true. Yeah. And you know, it's okay for your let's say belief system to be idiosyncratic. I mean, you know, I'm like somewhere between an Orthodox Christian and a Luciferian, and that's fine, you know. So you don't even need to reach a point where you think that you understand your ideas very well. It's okay for them to be mixed and confused and still dancing with each other without having found their footing, you know. So
Yeah, there's something I like about Jordan Peterson that sometimes he's very open that he doesn't understand some stuff and that he's still
true,
figuring
yeah,
it out.
that's very important. It's very important. And I think that this is why the Peterson Zizek debate, once the debate format was dropped, turned into a very decent discussion. You know?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Debates are usually boring because they're, just a
Yeah. Look.
duel of rhetorical skills more than anything else.
Yeah. And let's face it. Debates are a blood sport in the end. You know, you go to a debate to see a cockfight in the end.
Yeah, that
But
is
that's
true.
pretty much it. Yeah. So it's not that they're useless, but they're not the ideal form of philosophical discussion by any stretch.
Yeah, and they're not really productive by any stretch of imagination
Yeah, yeah,
either.
yeah, yeah. Because you know, debates are a political format, not a philosophical one. In the end, you know.
Summing up this conversation about Jordan, uh, maybe a few words about what he means to us in general. And,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
for me, uh, I can just say that as I expressed to him in private, he's a father figure to me. I can say that without
Yeah,
exaggeration.
yeah,
He inspired me greatly. When I was watching his videos in junior high, just it playing in the background, and me playing guitar and listening to him, and his depth of commentary, his depth of thinking, his rhetorical skills, all of that was definitely something I aspired to and viewed it as an ideal, and I still do to this very day.
yeah.
and his artistic skills are also something very touching to me.
Yeah.
His art has resonated with me definitely. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to re-listen to
Yeah.
the Aftermath album shortly.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and yeah, what else can
Yeah.
I say? It's definitely more than a YouTube channel for me. It's one of the
Definitely.
most important parts of my life and development, I think.
Definitely, definitely. And for me, obviously Jordan has also been a great source of inspiration, of learning, and of aesthetical enjoyment. But I think the way I've the feelings I've developed for Jordan are this very, very honest love, I could say. This like a personal, individual version of the Christian agape. You know, in a very honest way, and like we haven't personally communicated that much, but I I very deeply care about Jordan, and I'm not saying this in any way with like no single drop or particle of pity. I mean it in a way of I see an individual who I see is of great value, like even in an ontological sense, and I I want beautiful things for that person, you know. So yeah, that's how I feel about Jordan. And it's interesting that you say that for us it's much more than a channel, because I think that's also a bit reflective on our friendship as well. Like we've never met in person. I think we've met through YouTube, and the friendship we've developed is certainly certainly one of the truest things in my life, and it's amazing how you can see that by somebody putting out their spirit out there, like on YouTube, you can actually develop a deep relationship with that person.
Yeah, that's true. I can't really
Yeah,
tell how that happened. That was very interesting because it was just
sure.
you made this interview with Jordan. I
Yeah,
replied to that in
yeah,
comments, and you made a YouTube video replying to my comments.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Went on some philosophical tangents. Then we
yeah.
arranged a meeting, and it just went from that. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And there's a deep beauty, I think, about this whole thing. So
Yeah. So yeah, I can just say amen to all that you said. Yeah, we're
yeah,
actually true friends thanks to Jordan Owen, even though we never
true.
met in
Yeah,
person.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Maybe a day will come where we will actually manage to do an international meetup or something. That would be
That would be
nice.
splendid, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe you will tie Jordan up and force him to actually speak about his religious beliefs.
No, I don't think I can do that. But
Oh, come on.
I can.
You couldn't
I,
resist that.
yeah, look, like man, the thing I can hope for and wish for is that I will find the right match to at some point light even a small spark in him that will develop into something like that. Because I believe that Jordan has a lot to give, and I want to see his thoughts on spirituality and art and his creations flourish and blossom again. And I don't want to dump on his current content at all, because it's great, it's fine. But oh man, at least on a personal level, I really wish I'll see content like that from him. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to wrap the conversation up.
True.